Hey guys, it is about that time of year to do the mid-year freakout. Hey guys, if you are new, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. The first half of this year has flown by, and it completely escaped my mind about the mid-year freakout until I started seeing the videos pop up on YouTube. So I knew I needed to get that done and kind of present my own mid-year freakout. So I'm going to take 10 questions that I've been seeing being asked by some of the fellow booktubers out there and give my answers, give my thoughts on kind of how my book year has been going so far. So for our first question, we have, what has been the best book that you have read so far this year? I have three that kind of are sticking out in my mind. And the first two are from the Cocky Hero Book Club, which is Cocky Bastard and Mr. Moneybags. These were just really great, well done, spicy little romances. Chance in Cocky Bastard, I just loved him. He became one of my book boyfriends. It was a second chance romance involving a goat, which if you read it, you will know there was funny antics, the depths and ways that Chance was willing to go to get back his love and his being redeemed. I'm like, he was a great guy, and I loved it, and it was a wonderful, wonderful little story. Basically, you have a girl and the guy that need to get to a certain place, so they share a car, and along the car drive, they start to fall for each other, get to know each other as you would when you're driving a long distance in a car, closed, confined space with one other person. Obviously, there are twists and turns, and it becomes a second chance romance, and it is just really well done. So highly recommend that book. Mr. Moneybags is very similar, where you have kind of lies, fake identities, and then it becomes a second chance romance with some very interesting obstacles in its way. But Dax, our billionaire boy in this one, is very much similar to Chance, which is probably why I love him so much. Very smart, wisecracking type of antics, lots of humor, but also just very, very sweet in the depth and things that he's willing to do for the girl that he loves. So I do recommend both Cocky Bastard and Mr. Moneybags. They were really great. The contemporary romance is set in New York, I believe. Well, set in New York, and then the other one I think ends up in California, but it's cute because Chance in Cocky Bastard is actually referenced to in Mr. Moneybags, which obviously made me very happy. But those are two of the three. The third one being Heartless Hunter. I didn't want to move it because it's supporting my beautiful little rose that my hubby got me, which, you know, I'm gonna find a vase for it eventually, but I wanted it up there because it's beautiful. Anyway, so Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I hope I got that name right. I apologize. Which to me was very much Zorro with witches, if Zorro was also female and a witch. Very, kind of fantasy world, fantasy romance, leaves off on a cliffhanger. Can't wait for the sequel. Just not that much spice. There is a kind of spicy moment by the beach, which if you know, you know, and everybody has applauded that beach scene. Let me tell you, I did as well. But very well done. Backstories are great. The interaction is great. You feel like you're kind of in this magical, like I said, Zorro-like world. I obviously, if you've watched my channel for a little bit, you know Zorro. I grew up with it. I loved it. The old black and white to the Antonio Banderas. So anytime there's kind of a Zorro mass vigilante, Robin Hood, whatever, I'm going to be in it. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to want it. So we did it. I loved it. All of these, I believe, were 5-star reads for me. So I highly recommend each of them. So moving on, question number 2. What is the best sequel you have read so far in 2024? And for that, I am picking up Twisted Secrets by Katie Roberts. Obviously, you know, I love my Katie Roberts books. This is the book 3 in kind of her mafia romance series with the O'Malleys. And this one has to deal with Killian, who I think is the second or third born son in the O'Malley family. He is, or was, like kind of the playboy party boy type. Obviously, if you've read the series, some things happen that have kind of made him sober up a little bit. This is his kind of story with Olivia, who is a single mom, and she is kind of on the run, trying to obviously support her child. She is a bartender at the bar that Killian tends to go to. Killian is working hard to try to get her attention. So it's kind of their relationship dynamics mixed in with what happens when she gets found out, and how Killian steps forward to be her protector and kind of brings in the O'Malley family to help out once again. Really enjoyed it. I love the emotional dynamics in this one. I love the relationship dynamics in this one. I felt that I'm not usually one for like a single mom trope. Like I'll read them, but usually the pregnancy single mom trope is not my thing. But this one did it well. This one does the single mom, what she's willing to give up to protect her child, the distance she's going, and better yet, when she knows to throw in the towel and ask for help. That was huge, I feel, in this one, and how she's just trying to survive and let herself be vulnerable with somebody again. So I felt like that aspect of the relationship was done very, very well, and so I enjoyed this one. Highly recommend this series. It's a great mafia romance series involving basically the Irish mob in Boston area. So pick it up if that is your gist. It was mine, and I loved it. I'm continuing the series. So next up, we have, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? There are a few, but the two that stand out to me are Medici Heist by Caitlin Schneiderman, which comes out August 6th. This is kind of a historical fiction, money heist, bank heist type thing. And I mean, you don't really see a lot of heist books in here. And this one is set to, I think, to Italy and to the Renaissance and the Medicis. And so, yeah, I'm in. It sounded good. Sounded like a fun time. And I think it actually fulfills one of the prompts for the Reddit Fantasy Bingo, because it is a kind of fantasy version of this historical world. So that will be very interesting to read. And once again, that comes out August 6th. So soon. And then the next one is one that I've been waiting for a while, because the date keeps getting pushed back. I thought it was going to come out in June. It's not. It has been pushed to October 8th. And that is Bloodguard by Ceci Robson. The Amazon version of this is stunning, and I want it. And I don't know if it's just the Amazon version or if other stores are going to offer it. But you basically have like this Fae kingdom and human kingdom, and they're at, I don't want to say at war, but the Fae kind of overpowered the humans or something along those lines. But there are these games where you can win kind of like, I guess, like a wish of your choice or something that you want. And there's this guy who's going to enter the competition because I believe his sister is sick and he needs some type of medicine for her to be healed. So he's going to fight in it, but he needs like someone to promote him. And so in comes like this Fae, I don't know if she's a princess or something, rather, or elf princess or something. And she'll support him. But the only thing is this guy very much hates these beings. And so it's kind of going to be an enemies to lovers, possibly, I think. But what's interesting is that this whole competition is kind of gladiatorial combat, which just struck me as interesting because you don't usually see that in a lot. I mean, you've seen fighting combat games, but the way that this is presented is very much like gladiators, you know, like Roman gladiators. So I'm very curious to be hooked into this kind of fantasy world with elves and fae and whatever, and humans and gladiators or something. But I've been wanting to read it. It keeps getting pushed back. So hopefully it will come out in October and I will be able to read that one. So those are the two that I'm really looking forward to, probably the most, but there are several I know that there's a new Blood and Ash book, I think, coming out. There's some new works from Scarlett St. Clair. So there are a lot of really interesting things coming out for the next, remainder of the year. But these ones are ones that, as soon as I read about them months ago, they were on my list. Next up, question number 4. What is the biggest surprise of the year? It was a surprise. It was not a good surprise. That was Playboy Pilot by Penelope Ward and V. Keelan. I had been reading the Cocky Hero Club, and all of them had been 5 stars. There was one that I think went down to like 3 or 4 stars, but they were all really kind of well done. I got to Playboy Pilot, and it was like my first DNF in the series. Like, I did not even make it that far because the characters just irritated me to no end. I had to read reviews about it because I was just like, does this even get any better? And according to some of the reviews, it wasn't, and I just did not want to waste my time with that anymore. So I ended up DNFing it, and that was surprising to me because I had been loving the books in the series so far. They had all been pretty good. So that was my biggest surprise. My fave new author. This is kind of going to be a mix-up because there's 3 that are kind of standing out to me, and the first one up is Elliot Rose, who I was part of the ARC team for 2 of her books. The first one was Vengeful Gods, which came out, I think, February, March, and then Chasing the Wild, which came out in June. Chasing the Wild, it's a good read. It's just cowboy romance. I've talked about this before in like 2 different videos. If you want my review on it, I will link the video down below. But Vengeful Gods, which I'll also link the review for this one down below because they each have their own video, was a very dark taboo romance. I think it was one of my more darker taboo romances that I've read to date. Did not know if I was going to like it because, I mean, it had a pretty long trigger list, which it doesn't usually bother me, but it did have a pretty extensive list. But the relationships and how they work together and the emotional pull between these characters, everything worked out, everything clicked. I loved it. It was 5 stars for me. So anything that she writes, I'm probably going to pick up and read because I do like her writing style. I do like some of the little witty, humorous, snippy comments that the female heroines that she writes give. And I mean, they are spicy books, but they're very interesting. She touches on a lot of like kind of questionable relationships. So I find that interesting. Next up, we of course have Kristen Ciccarelli with Heartless Hunter, which I've talked about a little earlier. She kind of won me over with the Zora vibes, not gonna lie. That's kind of what did it in for me, but I had fun in the world. I think this is more of like a YA type of fantasy. So, it was just a little bit like smoother, easier to just kind of flow through reading wise. But I will be reading the sequels to this one and possibly anything else she comes out with because I really enjoyed this one. And then next is going to be Danielle L. Jensen, who wrote A Fate Inked in Blood. I really enjoyed that book and I liked the way it was written. I liked how she presented the mythological aspects in that book. So I'm going to be continuing with that series. So I'm obviously going to be continuing with her books and seeing what else she has out there. Which is funny because that will bring us to our next book, which is Your Newest Fictional Crushes. Obviously, Chance from Cocky Bastard and Dax from Mr. Moneybags are right up in there. I fell for them. They're definitely new book boyfriends, new book hubbies, whatever you want to call them. They're on the list. And then, of course, we have Bjorn from A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I liked the way that he was written. He is my Viking guy right now. Dark hair, the physique. Yeah, you know where we're going with this one. But I did like his personality in here where he's kind of tossed between protector and suitor. Very interesting fantasy world, but I did like him in this and I can't wait to see where he goes because I feel like the second book in this series is going to be tensions arising in this kind of fantasy, mythological, historical kind of world with a little touch of second chance romance, if you will, on this one. So, and I don't mind a second chance romance. I actually like them because I feel like I know that people don't like second chance romances, which is funny because I think now that I look at them, all of these new book boyfriend like crushes, they're all have an element of second chance romance in them. That's funny. But I do like the second chance romance trope. I know not a lot of people do, but I like it just on the fact of when you're in a relationship and you like botch the trust or you do something that ends the relationship and you realize you messed up and you want that person back. It's a hard uphill battle for those people because they broke something in the relationship. So it's not like they just have to prove themselves and win whoever. It's they have to fix whatever was broken and rebuild from it. And that isn't very easy to do. So seeing what people are willing to do that and to prove that they, are worth being loved again. I think that is kind of what draws me to it. And from that point of view, I like the second chance romances. So with that being said, let's go on to question number 7, a book that made you cry. None so far. None have really made me cry. I've gotten the lump a few times. I've gotten emotional a few times where it's been like, but I haven't cried yet. So nothing so far has made me cry. Maybe in the second half of the year, who knows? Maybe my end of year, there will be books that just make me bawl like, crazy. Next up is a book that made you happy. So I went for one that just kind of was a feel good, made me smile more often than not, lots of little giggles. And that was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This was very much The Office meets Once Upon a Time meets Bridget Jones's Diary for me. It was a lot of fun because you don't see this type of office setup in a fantasy magical world. But lots of fun little lines, lots of fun little antics, very lighthearted, even at the darkest of times in this book. So I definitely recommend this as kind of a feel-good fun. If you are just kind of feeling down and you're out and you need a smile, this is going to be the book to pick up. The spice is very light in this, there if any. So definitely book that made me happy. Highly recommend it. So next up is going to be question number 9, which is, what is the most beautiful book you have come across this year? It's very recent. I have not read this yet, but I did go and pick it up, and that was The Wren in the Holly Library, and that was just, we're going to go and show you why. I have not done a book buy or book haul for this yet, so you'll probably see it in another book haul video when it comes up. But as you can see, the cover, the colors, the way it's this is kind of raised, embossed, so that's good. The sprayed edges are of the holly, and then it gets better because, let me get this out of the jacket, you have this kind of wonderful thing. So like if I open it, I'm like, that's just kind of cool. And then the end pages, like for whatever reason, this gives me Shadowhunter vibes, and I think it's just because you see them like in black overlooking like the city in like a lot of the books, and on both end pages are the same. But I mean, it is just, as I drop the cover, it is just one of the more stunning books that I have come across. So yeah, I picked it up. I have no idea. It sounds good because it takes place in kind of like a magical library, but I don't know much more than that because I haven't read it yet, but I am looking forward to it. And like I said, it is one of the more stunning books that I have come across for me this year. And for our last and final question, it is, what is a book, or what are books or a book that you need to read by the end of the year? And my answer is too many. Way too many. I still have to finish the Romantasy challenge, or the Every Romantasy challenge, which I'm doing. I'll leave a link below. I'm trying to do it in 1 month, even though it's supposed to be like for the rest of the year or a year-long challenge, but I am trying to do it in a month, so we'll see how that goes. I still have the books for the Reddit Fantasy Bingo Challenge. I think I've only read one to date. So that definitely is a long, heavy list to get through my challenge accepted jar picks, to finish reading the Shadowhunters, to like get up to date in that world, to finish reading the Zodiac Academy, because I really, really enjoyed those books so far, and I just haven't been able to throw myself back into that world. So there are a lot of books that I just can't even name because there's just too many kind of goals and things that I need to get done before the end of the year. So with that being said, stay tuned and follow along to see if I get to those books. Let's see if I get to Zodiac Academy. I'm going to have to set aside a month for that one. Getting up to date on Shadowhunter like you guys have requested. Just doing these things. So let me know what your picks are for these questions. Do your own freakout tag. Let me know in the comments. Email me. Let me know. I want to know what you guys are reading and how the year has been going so well, or how the year has been going so far for you guys. And stay tuned to see if I find any new versions of my answers, new sequels that I love, new books that I love, and new book hubbies. And if I get to finish what I need to get done by the end of the year. Hope you guys are staying well, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.